Hello, everyone. We will get started in a moment. How are y'all doing today?
Doing
Well,
great.
Great.
thanks for having us.
I am excited to jump into today's content, even in the prep session. The team leaders that we have on this call to our audience, you guys are going to get some insights. So get your notebooks out, get ready to learn some things. We are going to have a good conversation. All right. The participant count is ticking up, so we're going to get started with some housekeeping notes, and then we're going to jump right in. My name is Allison LaForgia. I am the managing editor of HousingWire's content studio, and today we are talking about how to continually add value to your agents while driving profit. This webinar is presented by JMG, and a few housekeeping items. This is meant to be an interactive webinar, so use the chat. It's at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions that you want to send in the Q&A icon, we'll get through as many as we can, but as time allows. We will be recording today's webinar, so if there's anything that y'all missed or anything you want to revisit afterwards, you'll be able to do so once the recording comes out. Now, I'm going to do a quick overview of what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to have today's panelists introduce themselves. So today we will be talking about how to learn how to scale your real estate team to new heights by utilizing the strategy that America's #1 real estate team is used to close 1,200 transactions in April of this year alone, by utilizing some of the systems that we're going to talk about today to scale your business and retain more agents, all while continuing to drive profits. So today we have 3 team leads to talk about providing value for your agents and your team. Brian, Jason, Moni, can you guys introduce yourselves before we jump into today's content?
Sure. I'm Brian Thomas. I'm with BTT Group here in Denver. We've been with JMG for a while. We've been selling real estate for a while. Love it here. Go ahead, Moni.
Is it me or you,
Yeah,
Jason? Hi, I'm Moni Wilder. I am a team leader for Jason Mitchell Group. My business is called Wilder Real Estate. I have a team of about 9 agents. Had a team for about 4 years, and I've been with Jason Mitchell Group for year and a half now.
Hey guys, I'm Jason Cadwell. I am in the Oregon marketplace and was broker owner of the Cadwell Realty Group, and we joined JMG back in December, and been around the business for 24 plus years, and excited to be here.
Great. All right. So now we're going to jump in. Let's start with talking about why agents quit leaders and how to build trust and loyalty so they stay.
Who wants to
I'm
start?
Moni.
Why is it me?
It's always a ladies first deal, right?
Oh, okay. Lucky me. Okay. Question was, why do agents quit leaders?
Mm-hmm. And then we'll work into how to build trust so that they stay.
Okay. I mean, I think there's a number of reasons why agents leave teams or leaders. I think it usually comes down to either value added, not enough value added, or there could be something, obviously personality wise, not a good fit from like an energetic or vibe perspective. But I think for the most part, what I see, and I don't know what you guys think, but I hear a lot of just like, I was paying these splits and what was I getting in return? So perceived value, whether it's in the form of leads. And so that's the better, in some agents' mind, they need to have business is what the perceived value is, or coaching, or like help me develop my own business. These are the 2 things that I hear agents talking about when they're coming to us to want to potentially come over to JMG. What do you guys see?
Yeah, as far as the value part, that to me is huge because what I see is I call it the grass is greener syndrome. And it's usually when agents think that they're going to get something more somewhere else, and the brokerage or the team is not providing what they feel is valuable. So a lot of times it's the back end stuff, and it's not necessarily the business. And so when you can show them or you can help them to build their business, the back end stuff doesn't mean nearly as much. However, adding in the back end stuff is always important as well. So I just see people thinking that there's something better somewhere else is when they leave.
And I'll
Brian, Brian, what do you mean by back end stuff? What does that mean?
Like the systems, and I know we'll be talking about that as well, but the systems and the support staff and the support that we provide is huge when it gets to, people being able to stay on with you and know that the back end is all taken care of. Then they
Yeah,
can focus on their business.
I agree that I think that's hard. And look, none of us, or at least I'll say for me, haven't had, there's times when we haven't had that value, right? We haven't been able to provide that as one of the things that, in our changing landscape in the last 3 years, especially that, you're trying to find your place and what have you. And we struggled with some of that. And so you have agents that will leave and go, hey, I think I can go somewhere else and for a lesser price, because what happens is more agents are doing less business, if you will. And so
Right.
there's a struggle for people to make a living. And now they're going to go somewhere else. If they're not finding all those things that you guys are talking about, then they're going to go somewhere else. And again, like I said, we struggled with that. And even when we made our move to JMG, one of the other things I'll say is why people leave is they don't like change. And if we're not as leaders embracing a mindset of change and adaptation, this guy, I'll say that was a problem we had, and I did not convey that very well. One thing I've learned now is we have something to be able to plug our people into and be able to take them really down that road of going, hey, we're going to make things better. We have the better systems. We have we are not going to be the least expensive place to be at, by the way. We don't want to be, right? But the value for giving tons of value, that will overcome everything. So that's what I've found lately.
When you say so you talk about adaptation, you're talking about adopting new ways or kind of seeing the direction things are going. And then as the leader being able to forecast that and let the team know hey, yes, this change is happening, but it's happening because this is what we are seeing on a broader scale. And this is the direction we need to go in order to evolve with these changes, as opposed to being left behind and then having to play catch up. And then at the end of the day, that harms you and your business. Is that what you mean by that, Jason?
Absolutely. I think, from being an independent broker owner through the NAR lawsuit, right? That was very apparent that we as independents, I will say, we have to adapt. We have to think differently. And because, personal opinion, I don't think the lawsuits are done, right? I think our industry is going to continue to see more and more of that. And so when you can find other ways to adapt and grow and partner with other companies like we did, that makes you even stronger in the future. So that's kind of where I was going with that is, and we as the leaders have to make decisions that may not be super popular the whole time. It's like being a parent, right? We do things that, and say things for our kids that we believe is for their better interest, but it may not be super popular at the time. But
yeah, but it's in my experience, it's an ongoing sale. With my team members, the thing that I'm continuously doing is selling the value of all the little things. Like Brian was talking about, that back end support. Okay, so that's one of it. Obviously, we're at JMD, so we have the ultimate value, which is the referrals that are, basically business waiting to happen, right? So that's the other thing. But I think the other thing that Jason's touching on that I haven't really thought about is even the value of me being at 30,000 feet, or me kind of seeing beyond their day to day, right? So it's the agents are out doing business. They have their nose to the grindstone. They're out in the world just trying to transact. And it's really I feel like my job to, be able to kind of pick my head up and look around and point to the direction that we need to go. And I think that combination of those things really speaks to the value of the leader. And that helps kind of fortify you against them leaving. And then at the same time, not every agent is for you, right? Like you guys know I have a strong personality. Not every agent does well on my team because I have a style. I mean, Brian, I don't know why you're laughing so hard. What's that about?
That's
Oh, Jason now too.
just a thought. Yeah.
Well, I do. So the other thing is like, just because agents leave doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? Like there's oftentimes a lot of benefit to certain people leaving if they're not in line or in sync or just, the right fit for you and your team. Do you guys
Yeah,
think?
that's huge. Yeah, because the ones that aren't supposed to be with you will leave. They will find someplace. Doesn't mean they're a bad agent. Just mean they
Right.
don't fit the personality, and that's part of creating the trust and the loyalty is to have like-minded people on the team moving in the same direction. I mean, that's pretty big.
I agree with you so much.
So let's dig into that partnership a little bit more. How do you partner with your agents to create leverage or give them a competitive advantage in a market like we're in now? And let's start with someone who's not Moni. Jason, you nominated her as tribute. Let's start with you.
I think, first and foremost is education. And I believe all three of us are practitioners. And I think being in the trench, not that we have to be in the trench and killing it on a day-to-day basis, but we have to be in the trench knowing what's going on and being in the day-to-day so that we can be able to take that and help educate our agents of what's to come. And I think that's one way that we're able to basically grab your agent alongside and go, hey, I'm going to help you through this because I've been through that. The whole adage of, hey, I can walk through, a dark forest at night, but it's a lot more fun with a partner, right? So you can get it done, but you need help. And that's what our job is to help partner with them. It's also our job to be able to go and find opportunities for our agents, which then gives them more sales, which gives them more confidence, which is a continuing cycle. And that's what Jason Mitchell's done at the highest level, and that's why a lot of us are here. But even I'm fortunate to be able to do a lot of new construction land development locally, and we do the same thing. I bring in a lot of our agents onto our teams to help us do all of that. And so by us going out and hunting it down and killing it, if you will, we're able to bring it back and help partner with our agents.
I agree with that completely. As long as our agents know that we're on their side and that we're advocating for them, and no matter what, whether it's education, whether it's understanding the market, whether it's, finding a solution for whatever happens to be there, I'd have to say that that's the biggest partnership. Understanding what they need on a daily basis. My wife, Lee, she's my business partner. She's my co-team leader. She should probably be on this call. She's way better at it than I am. Um, she she makes sure that she's in touch with everybody on the team. She makes sure that whatever is going on and whatever happens, we're there with them, and we continue to. It's the team mentality, it's the team mindset that we're all in this together, and whatever is coming up, chances are, if it's coming up for one, it's coming up for several. And so we address it immediately and keep it moving forward and finding the reasons for that happening and the solutions for, getting past it. I hope that made sense.
It does make sense. Yeah, when you asked the question, like, and you use the word partnership, it kind of threw me off a little bit. So I'll say that this is kind of the way I think about it, and I don't know what you guys think, but I had a big shift in my ability to run my team when I started to think of my team members as co-leaders and started to ask them to be leaders. And I also noticed that when I made this shift in my mind, I did have some agents leave. And the people who were left now have been with me for like years. I have very little turnover on my personal team. And my agents now on my team are like badasses. I mean, they are leaders. I mean, they know, because when I stopped looking at them as, hey, I'm responsible for you, or like, hey, I'm kind of like your mom, like when I and I hated that too. Like that doesn't fit me. I already got kids, so I don't need adult kids over here. Like I got enough going on. But when I made that shift to be like, hey, we are a small group. Why don't we start figuring some of this stuff out together? I don't know all the answers. Um, I'm making decisions over here, and I feel like I would love to get you guys' input on that. And I would love to, what do you guys see? What do you see that I don't see? And when I made that shift and started inviting them into the leadership kind of mindset and conversation, I noticed that the ones who had that orientation just grew so quickly. Their businesses grew. They had fewer problems. Like and they started to also take care of each other. That was the other thing is they started to co-lead with me, so we would bring someone new on, and I have an agent on my team named Jen, and she's phenomenal. And she would start to like pick up the phone and like preemptively mentor a new agent. There's no benefit to her monetarily to do it, but because she now feels like she's responsible for this team the same way I am, it just changed the personality of the team and it fit me better. So now it's like, people ask me, well, like, are you hiring for your team? And I'm kind of like, I don't know, because like I got such a good groove with the people that I have, and we are so just tight and we get along and we're on the same page that it's like I'm almost scared to try to replicate it again. So that partnership, it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's really what that word is like truly viewing them as a partner in this business called, Wilder Real Estate, and empowering them to lead themselves within my business, and asking more of them too, right? Like when that happened, there was higher accountability, like, hey, last month you said you were going to do XYZ with your SOI. Where's that at? You didn't do it? Well, why? Why not? I know it's your business, but hey, we're a team. We're together in this. I did mine. Why didn't you do yours? And it's easier to have that conversation when everyone kind of signed up to be empowered as opposed to mothered. Am I crazy or does that make sense?
No, because actually one of my favorite responses when I talk to somebody and say, so how's everything going? And they say, oh, I already talked to so and so, we did this and we talked about this. And I find out that they're all talking to each other and solving their own problems, if there are
Yeah.
problems, or collaborating on moving forward. So
Yes.
that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
I love the idea of empowered and not mothered. I think that's a really great point. And I think your comment on the partnership being like really leaning into that idea and empowering them to have that leadership mindset is such an interesting concept.
Yeah. It's ownership, right? Like the number one challenge I have with agents that don't do well in my team is they don't take ownership. And you see this bleed into all aspects of their life too, right? Because you get to know these people on on various levels. So it's like they don't take ownership of their business. They're always waiting for you to step in and solve their problem. They're always waiting for you to generate business for them to do. They're always waiting for you to help them set up blah, 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 or Google this simple thing to figure out an answer. And then you see that, the saying is how you do one thing is how you do all things. So then you see that same lack of ownership happening in their personal lives, so then it's just like red flag, right? Like can't do it. You have to find, I think, somebody who has a baseline understanding of like you're responsible for your life and therefore you're definitely responsible for your business and your results. Come over here into this environment where we all believe that and we're all growing together with owning our own shit. Like to me, that's where you can find some magic. Sorry about cussing on this thing. Yikes. About to get kicked off. Banned, blocked, reported.
We've had worse. We've had worse.
Okay.
We've had worse. There was we had someone come on and there were some interesting expletives that came off successively very quickly. But
Okay.
let's talk a little bit about we mentioned the back end of things. And I know that Brian talked about that background stuff that goes on, which is pretty important. So let's talk about scaling your capacity for growth through systems and what that looks like.
Well, and I'd say when we talk about scaling for the capacity, we started off as a very small company, as BTT Real Estate, and we were doing everything ourselves. And the more agents we added, the more it got to be tedious, and it really took a lot of time to handle it. So joining joining a company and getting into a situation to where um, all of the back end stuff, all of the monitoring and the processing and the onboarding and everything is all taken care of. That means that we can focus as a team, we can focus on one thing, selling houses, right? That's what we do. That's what we're here for. That also gives Lee and I the ability to add more people in scale because the back end stuff is taken care of and it doesn't fall directly on us. So when you have the company backing to be able to give you, all of those systems and all of those procedures in place, it just makes it that much easier to do your job, whatever your job may be. You don't have to try and be several things all at once.
I'll, I agree, and I think one thing that I wrote down, and this is something I use a lot, is about when things are taken off a team leader, broker owner, however you want to slice it. If you can take things off of your plate, I feel like you get time back, but also to me that is actually mental capital is what I call it. I actually have now more room in this silly melon here to be able to do more things, or to get some of the minutia out of the way. And that's been huge for me. That's what I've noticed over the last 6 months, has been able to definitely focus differently and use that mental capital, because we only have so much, to be able to figure out what to do with it. And that's been super super helpful. And that's why taking a lot of that stuff off your plate, like Brian mentioned, is super important.
Yeah, like being able to play to your strengths. Like for me, I was an individual agent. I'm a good salesperson. If you're a good salesperson, you likely are not a great process person. I mean, that just is the truth, right? In general. So, but running a business or running a team requires a lot of structure and a lot of process in order to, um, be able to be as successful as possible. And then to try to scale that as you have more than one or two people with you. Now you've got, 9 and 10, and then that turns into more. So, being able to have those processes and things just taken off of you so that you can play in your strongest position, which now my goal is to continuously pull myself out of production so that I can just have success through others by teaching my agents how to be great salespeople and scaling myself like that. So that's like I feel like that's the progression, right? Like you start as an individual agent, you're doing everything yourself. Then you hire your first TC and you realize, okay, great. When the TC does the paperwork, I can go sell more houses. And then from there, I need a showing assistant. And then it just goes from there. But if you can take all of that back end and have it happening without you having to look at it all the time and build it, God forbid. Yeah, it just lets you be like a sales coach, which I think at the end of the day is really what a team leader is, right? You want to be that sales coach, the motivator and the accountability. And if you do that really well, you can, have your agents sell a lot of houses and you can make a lot of money while supporting them doing that.
Let's dig into that idea more, the how you actually go about surrounding yourself with people to enable that transition, because I think that's one of the really difficult areas to like actually lean into, right? So how do we go about that?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, talks about the person that creates the business is the one that is usually the best at that job. And then that person tries to do everything else and ultimately fails at doing that business because they're trying to be something they're not. And so bringing in people that fit a role, and like that could be buyer agents, that could be listing specialists, that could be processing, that could be onboarding, accounting, whatever. Unless you have that experience, find somebody who does. And that's just something that I've always thought was key when running a business and making the business successful, which is what we all do. We are all business people.
So true. You have to be able to. I was thinking of that as you guys were talking. You got to love your part of the game, and if you don't what you got to find, what part is that, and there's no right or wrong answer. You can be the best processor person, but and you also know how to lead, and that's okay. You don't have to be the number one salesperson of your group to be able to still lead and do that. But you have to, I think, like anything, figure out what are you really good at and what do you love to do. I think there's two there, because if you hate what you're doing, even though you're good at it,
You won't do it. Yeah.
You won't do it.
longevity, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
So I tend to do that where I love I'll talk a lot about new construction, land development. I love that stuff. I geek out on it. That's what I just dig. And so that's where I really love to stay. Process, or the processing true side of in paperwork side. No, that's not me. You got to know what lane you live in.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
about
why I
you
love
guys.
teaching. So
I had to learn how to be willing to pay for stuff. Like, I'm not good at this, and I have to be willing to pay someone who is good at this to do it for me. And I think when you're a business, especially, I'm not sure what the makeup of the people listening are on this call, but if you are newer at developing your team, or you're thinking about developing a team, this is one of the hardest things to kind of overcome, especially in a market like we're in. Phoenix's market's pretty brutal right now. It's not like sales are just happening. So, every commission is hard to earn. So thinking about paying a portion of that to somebody who you hope is going to help you get whatever this gap is filled can be tough. But I think you have to have the discipline of you have to have that CEO mindset before you actually feel like a CEO. You have to just act like a CEO. You have to make decisions like the business owner you want to be in the future now. So I had to teach myself that, of like, how would future Moni deal with this in my future business? Well, it's like, if I want to build that future business, I have to put the things in place today, now, in order for it to turn into that. I can't just one day decide, okay, now I'm ready to hire an XYZ. Once my business is big enough, it's like, no, the business won't get big enough unless you make that, it's called an investment, right? So you have to make the investment now in order to let it grow into what you need it to be later. That was a big part of what I had to learn, guys.
Tony, who was your first hire? You just
TC.
made that decision. Who was it?
A TC. It was a TC. I was doing, there was a year that I did, I think my second year in real estate, I did over 50 transactions, and I did the paperwork for every single one of those. And this really dominant, kind of legendary realtor here in Phoenix, for whatever reason, took a liking to me because I'm a smart ass on social media, and so is he. So he started talking to me, and when he found that out, he about killed me. Like, I remember him saying, you will hire a TC tomorrow. You will pay them whatever they want. You will find a good TC, and they will do everything from writing your contract. So it's like, from my second year in real estate, I haven't written a purchase contract since myself. I've always now had a TC from them. I just call my TC and tell her, write this on this contract and send it. I don't know the logins to my DocuSign, SkySlope, where to put transaction, all these things. Don't know. You will never know. Don't know how I get paid. Somebody does it. But it was the biggest. So it was such a big thing for me, because then that following year, I did like 85 deals. Right. And I was way happier and less stressed out. And, it just made such a big difference. So then from there, I learned, okay, I think the next thing I did was showing agent. And then I had a couple of those that I turned into buyer's agents. And then from there, it was just grew from there. So then I started to direct, certain deals to people, and it kind of organically started to happen after that, adding people. Not always the right people, but man, is this not an ongoing experiment? I'm hiring someone right now. I still barely know what I'm doing.
But without taking that first step, because I think that's really what's so important here. I think that first step is so hard.
Super hard.
Having that CEO mindset before you feel like a CEO.
Right.
And making that decision to capture that. Do you think you would have been able to have the growth that you had without turning over that first piece and saying, okay, I need someone to help me with this?
No, I mean, this is what's crazy. I look back on it and I remember being like, it was like $350 per transaction, per closing. It wasn't even like, it was just every closing I had to pay this person $350. You would have thought, I mean, I was clutching my chest like, oh my God, my blood pressure. I don't know. Can we afford that? And meanwhile, I'm doing 50 deals a year, right? So, and at a 0% commission place, right? So it's like, I'm like doing real good. But in my mind, that was just, coming from scarcity mindset, super, very, lower middle class upbringing. Money was always, an issue, constantly worried about it, right? So that was such a big leap that I had to make. But by making that big leap, it kind of helped me see my business for what it could be. Because as soon as I made that change, it was almost like, I don't know, you believe in God or the universe, but the minute that I made that decision, even more business flowed to me. I mean, it was just like that. It was like, because I made that decision of growth, it put me in a new place for me to then blossom from there. And then, so I feel like you have these moments where it's almost like I'm going to have to plug my nose and I'm going to have to jump in. But when you do it, and especially if it's something that feels scary and overwhelming, it's like you almost know that is the thing you should do. Like the thing that you can see is right, but it's freaking you out. In my experience, usually is the thing I need to just plug my nose and jump, and then I always say, trust my future self to figure it out on the way down. I'll build a parachute. I'll figure it out. I don't know about you guys, but coming to JMG was a big part, was one of those moments for me. Trust this seems too good to be true, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to trust that if it's not good, I know how to get myself out of things. But it was like one of those level up moments for me.
I love that. I was sitting here literally on my phone doing it with the calculator of you paid $350 a transaction. And I think this is where a lot of agents really get screwed up in their heads, where we get stuck of just what you said. I got to own it. I got to do it. Oh my God, $350 is a lot of money. If you actually take that math, it was 17,000. So it was under $20,000 that you paid in transaction fees for the year. So guys, if anyone, this is not we're not on here saying hire a W-2 employee, right? You have to pay at least a minimum wage. You start doing that math, and that ends up being $40,000 a year these days, right? So you're paying under $20,000 a year to do all of that work. And you start really calculating it out, because basically a TC is almost there kind of on demand for you.
Yeah.
So I call that kind of a full-time employee. You start doing the math of the dollar per hour that literally it's costing you is this much compared to what we make. I think if we actually stop and do that math in your marketplace, you'll go, okay, I can understand how I need to add some leverage to myself. So that way, if anything, that money I'm paying, I'm able to go spend that time with my family. I'm able to go fishing, golfing, whatever it is that you love to do, that's going to make you be able to make yourself better, a better human, a better parent, better wife, spouse, whatever. But you're also able to give back to your clients and do this business at a high level if you don't do that. So by holding it all, it's going to end up destroying you if you don't do that.
Well, Jason, you talked about earlier, like that mental, I don't know what you said, but that kind of clearing up that mental space or creating some additional capacity there. And I like that you brought up like going fishing, spending time with your family. Like these are all things that I didn't really value the first few years of having my real estate business. And I'm like a mom, you guys, like, and even it's just like, I am so driven that I can be, and I can go forever. Right. But I even saw in me, like, I'm not the best person I can be. I'm not the best leader. I'm not the best human. I'm not even thinking creatively. I'm not even solving problems as well as I could, because I am trying to do all of this all the time. And it's almost like this bizarre, almost like narcissistic tendency you can get into, where you think that you're the best at everything. And so, no one's going to do it better than me, so I guess I have to do it. You kind of get into that mode. And it's just not like, again, it's not like you have to always think like, what does my future business look like? And who would be the leader of that business? Like, how would the leader of that future business act or behave or think? And then trying to date on a daily basis, mold your behaviors to that. To me, that's key, because then I realize the value of what Jason, what you're talking about, having that downtime to just like chill, man, like have a glass of wine and have your phone on do not disturb and know that everything's going to be okay, because you know what, the world continues to revolve whether or not you're on the phone, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But you got to learn it, and sometimes you got to burn out for me, I have to learn things the hard way, so sometimes you got to burn out to learn it.
Well, that's what this is for, right? That's what I dig about being able to be invited on this. We get to share that. Of there's probably others that are have been in the business longer than we have, done more business, and there's people that are on the other end of that. And so if we can just give those reminders to people, because people have heard this before, right? And a lot of one of the coaching programs that even Jason is helping us plug into. One of the things that Cheplack says a lot is we don't need to learn more; we need to be reminded more. And that's our job here. Is hopefully that's what people are taking from this. Is just be reminded of this is not new stuff. Just take it from us. Go do it.
Go do it. So we are coming up really quickly towards 2:45 Eastern. So I'm gonna get us to our last talking point and then see if our audience has any questions that we want to dig into before time is up. So the last point I have for us to go through is optimizing overhead for efficiency to scale.
This sounds so
All right, I'll
technical.
jump in.
Somebody else do this one. This is way technical, huh?
I'll go ahead and jump in. So I look at the overhead as being all the different processes and procedures and everything that put everything together for our company. Um, I love to teach. I teach the commission update class. I teach contract classes, and that's what I'm good at. So we need to have something in place that takes care of the things that I'm not good at. And for most intents and purposes, it would be my wife, Lee. She's good at everything that I'm not, but that's a lot for her to take on. So optimizing the overhead for efficiency means that we need to be in a position to where a lot of the things that we don't handle as well are handled for us. And so this is a direct plug for JMG. Where we are right now with JMG is that all of these things that we would have normally done ourselves are being taken care of by people that are professionals at this. The processing, the mission control to hand out the referrals, the onboarding when new agents come on board, all the training, all the coaching. I mean, we have coaching several times a week that are from people, Cheplack, Mitchell, Burry. These people are amazing at what they do, and what they do is coach. And so that's part of what our agents are now attracted to be able to, all these things are all in one place, and all these things are what our people can tap into. So the overhead is no longer an issue. The overhead is taken care of so that we can focus on teaching. We can focus on what can we do to help our agents? What training do we need? And we can help direct the ship, even though it's a much, much bigger ship now. So that's my thought.
There's a lot of, and that's happening a lot in our industry. People are understanding that, and I think that's part of the merger, a lot of the merger and acquisition stuff that's going on. It's really a matter of getting more efficient.
Yeah.
The models, the team model, that's where you make your money.
Mm-hmm.
Rich model for those broker owners on the call, the margins are so thin. You're trying to find every little place that you can make some extra money to help pay all the overhead. You're going to see more and more of the M&As that's already happening. There's in a lot of the organizations, whether it's us at JMG or whether it's Real, EXP, all of those, they are all creating efficiency models to be able to take your team under and go do and continue to perform. So a lot of people in the industry are starting to get it, but I think it's important for team leaders, which I think is mostly the people that are on this call, is to really understand, plug yourself into that. get yourself hung out on the minutia to not be able to go out and get the business and create the revenue that actually gets us all paid. And it's the reason we're here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is sales. So, and it's not really that complicated to build, a pretty efficient sales business. And it's not like kind of what Jason was talking about before. It's not like this is new information that someone's innovating. It's reminding us of how every day, how we need to set this stuff up and how we need to deal with our clients and how we need to follow up. So why is it that we wouldn't all come under one umbrella where we can all share the same reminders and all support each other in our different markets, to be more efficient and to cut back on those costs, especially in a world where, technology is replacing so many functions of human beings, right? So it's like also being able to find those areas where, okay, where is that technological efficiency? Where can we in a people business, utilize that tech in order to help us get to more people and help us impact more people's lives? And I think, we're fortunate enough to be at a company that's very forward thinking in those things and is building those things and utilizing that tech and doing it all for us. Thank God, because there's no way I'd ever be able to set this up. I can barely log into my email, but it's there, it's happening. And so again, back to Brian, like, what am I best at? Teaching, coaching. I'm a coach, right? So put me in my best position. Let me do that thing. You guys go over here, you do the best thing you're good at, and let's all do it under one umbrella, since this isn't rocket science and we're not reinventing the wheel. That's what I think.
I
Agreed.
think that that's fantastic. And I think that that's a good place to stop today. So I'm going to leave this there. I'm going to send a link to JMG's website to our audience that's in the chat. And thank you, Moni, Jason, and Brian, for all of the insights. I have a bunch of notes. I'm sure our audience has a bunch of notes. And if there's anything that we didn't have time to get through, you can continue to send anything over or look on the Jason Mitchell Group website, which is in the chat. HousingWire will be sending a recording of today's webinar to registrants next week. And this will be listed on housingwire.com on the webinars page and on the video tab. So if there's anyone that you want to send this recording to, or someone you want to share it with to reiterate some of the insights that were shared here today, you will be able to do so. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you all again soon.
Thanks, everyone.